Hey everybody, what is going on? Today I want to talk about Queen of Tides, and I want to do it from kind of a different angle today. What I want to do is break this dungeon down, help you understand the mechanics, and then show you how to navigate the game in a way, hey pup, that's going to help you take champs you have in your roster, what you have at your disposal currently, and put together a team that's going to work in here. It's not so much going to be a showcase of a bunch of different teams. If you guys want me to do that video too, I'll do that video after this. But for this one, I want to specifically talk about how to read what the dungeon does and how to apply it to your own account, okay? Because I think that's really important to be able to do as a player. Of course, it's helpful to hop on YouTube and look up speed teams and look up teams to clear stuff and copy what someone else is doing. I think that's also great. It's great. It's a great way to learn. It's good information to have. But I figured we would try a different approach here and see if you feel like it does anything for you. And if it does, we'll do all the dungeons this way. Because again, I think this is very important to be able to do. And sometimes you might be stuck at a certain stage in a certain dungeon unnecessarily. You might be thinking that you need a certain champ that you don't have to do this, and you might have another champ that does it and just not be aware that they do it. You know what I mean? It's unlikely that you've gone through and read everyone's skills in the game and you know exactly what everyone does, right? So you might have someone sleeping in your roster that you didn't know could solve this problem for you. So let's jump in here and take a look at her real quick. We're also going to go no higher in this video than stage 12. Stage 13 and 14 are different games, honestly. When you're trying to do those dungeons, it's different. Rarely are you going to take the same team in and have success. You got to approach those a little different. So we're going to stop at 12 because, again, this is mostly for players who are trying to progress. You're probably stuck somewhere else, or maybe even at 12. But if you've already got your other... If you're figuring out hell dungeons, this video is probably not for you. You're probably squared away if you're already in the hell dungeons, okay? So let's talk real quick about it. First thing we'll do is talk about the little guys. These are the ones in the waves. Very straightforward. They just hit you. Sometimes they get bonus attacks. They're a real pain in the ass. They do way more damage than I think is reasonable, but it is the way it is, so there you go. The left guard at Queen applies joint attack to an ally for 2 turns, and then they have an AoE and a single target. And then the guard on the right heals the boss for 30% max health, and then also has an AoE and a single target nuke. So the important thing to take away from here is this heal. This heal is something that we're going to want to counteract or work around if we can. The left guard, not so much. The left guard is not really much of a problem. The joint attack is kind of annoying, but again, there's other ways around that. You don't have to worry about that. In some instances, though, you are going to have to kill this right minion. So that's the first thing of note, is that one of the minions, the right minion, heals the boss, okay? That's the number one important thing that we've picked up so far. Running through her abilities real quick. Grants random Blessing of the Goddess effect at the end of the turn. Can be triggered once every 2 rounds. If this character is buffed by at least 3 positive effects upon using an ability, launches a bonus attack with Dragon Bomb. So this is important. We want to keep positive effects off of her if we can, because if she's got 3 or more, she gets bonus hits. We don't want to take bonus hits, right? So her right guard heals. If she's got buffs, she's going to get bonus turns. Those are the 2 things to keep in mind so far. Damages an enemy and applies 1 stack of random Blessing of the Goddess to this character. Stifling Aqua Cage. Summons an Aqua Cage and disables movement on an enemy with the highest attack for 2 turns. That is number 3 takeaway. That is an important thing. Inflicts damage equal to 15% of the target's max health, blah, blah, blah. This targets the person on your team that has the highest attack. Number 3 takeaway, okay? Water Whip deals damage to all enemies and grants this character a water shield that scales with max health for 3 turns. Again, that's another buff, basically. And then Tsunami damages all enemies, damage increased by 15% based on the number of casts. So the longer the fight goes, the worse this skill gets, which means if you take too long to kill her, she's going to wipe you out. Sometimes in dungeons, you can go in with enough sustain and the fight can just go on as long as it takes you to kill the boss because you've got enough sustain and they can't kill you. She's going to just continue to ramp up, so she's eventually going to be able to kill you, right? She's going to eventually get strong enough where it's not going to matter how much sustain you have. So you got to be careful about these runs taking too long, okay? So her right guard heals. We don't want buffs on her if we can help it. Her Aqua Cage targets whoever we have that has the highest attack, and the quicker we can get in and out, the better. I mean, obviously, that's a general concept for every dungeon, but here it's more important, right? Because the longer it goes on, the stronger she's going to get. So knowing all the things that we know and knowing what we want to bring, we can come down here into the index and we can start with looking at champs that poison, okay? So I happen to have all of them, but what will happen here, you'll see when we look at the other debuffs, any champ that's lit up you have, any champ that's grayed out you don't have. So here we have our pick of the litter, basically. Any poisoner that I think is going to be ideal, I can bring with me. And I mean, obviously it's going to be him, right? We know he's insane. But on my free to be elite series, for example, I'm using Valuk, and he's fantastic. Axel, another pretty decent option. Hullins on paper is fantastic. Hullins is a little bit harder to keep alive in here. So keep that in mind. If you've got him and want to build him and you've got really good Terra gear, he can fit. He's got an A1 unhealable, he's got a A2 poisons, and he's got a debuff spread here. So he's got some cool stuff going on top of having block buffs for all of his attacks. So now he's blocking buffs every time he hits. A1 unhealable, A2 poison. Solid champ on paper. Little squishy, little hard to keep alive in there. I don't know that I would hate it if they bumped him up to A tier health. Be a little bit easier to scale and get him rolling. But he's gonna need better quality gear than some of your other champs on the team if you want to take him. Fantastic on paper. We will eventually get him working in there, but we can come in here and look at our poisons, right? Santis, another solid option for this. Up here, it's going to be easier to keep alive because they're positive affinity. Santis goes in neutral, a little bit harder to keep alive, but still very doable. But here, you can come in here and look at these champs, figure out what they're doing, figure out how they're going to contribute to the run. Once you sort your poisoners out, if you think you want to at least see what you have at your disposal for unhealable, check out your unhealable champ, see what you have. You can bounce around a little bit. You know, we've got this legendary here, and we can look at his skills and find out his unhealable is on his A2. So he puts it in for 2 turns. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. That means there's going to be a gap. We want to avoid the gap if we can. A1 healable is desirable here, right? So someone like Urzog, A1 unhealable. He's the right affinity. He's got A tier health, A tier defense. Should be relatively easy to get him tanky enough to survive. And the rest of what he does is also not bad, right? Increased damage taken can be nice. He also has no positive effects. What we want to be careful, though, is him not doing this enough. So one way around that would be to put him on a cursed set, right? Then he has a chance to follow up with his basic ability. And in my experience, that's been enough. I run Urzog, and I run him on a cursed set. And he does a pretty good job of keeping that up for me because I'm running the strat where I don't kill the right minion. But again, if you wanted to go the unhealable route, you can come in here and look around and see. And then if you need to find supports, for example, it doesn't have to be buffs and debuffs only. You can come down here and find things that champs do as well. So you can come in and look at your healers. If you don't have Mathasia, Rhaedyra is fantastic for this, right? Rhaedyra's got an attack down in her kit, which is helpful. She's got a defense buff, which is helpful. She's got a single target cleanse, which is helpful. Very solid support. And in the earlier game, honestly, a little bit easier to get her to work than Mathasia because of the extra debuffs and stuff she's bringing. Mathasia is obviously the superior champ and the better healer overall, but Rhaedyra is a fantastic support. Very easy to make her work in there. I run her on the Elites only account as well. So again, this is it. We have identified the problems, and we are coming in with ways to solve them. No positive effects. We can see who places that, right? And now we get to see some double ups here. Gangello, who is our poisoner, places it. Urzog, who is our unhealable champ, also places it. Now we can start to see how it's all going to come together, right? Where is a positive effect removed? We can look at our champs that strip if we want to remove buffs, right? Again, identifying the problems and coming down here and figuring out what in our roster we have to solve these problems. And that'll kind of let you figure out what kind of strat is feasible. You can at least put the team together, give them a run, and then identify where it falls apart, right? If you're assigning all the right mechanics to your team and it's failing, then you at least know it's a gear issue, right? You at least know that you have the comp right and the gear just needs to improve. So I'll let you watch a run of the team that I use, and you can kind of see how all the mechanics work, and it's the unhealable strat that I'm talking about. And then again, if you guys want to see more teams approach this in different ways, let me know and I'll get that video put together as well. But let's hop over and take a look at the run, and we'll talk about it while it's happening. All right, so we've got Urzog, Gangelo, Mathasia, and Zatlux. We've talked about why Gangelo and Urzog are here. Mathasia's here obviously for support, and then Zatlux is here for two reasons. He's here to clear the waves for us, because he is very capable of that. He's designed very well to do that for us. And then when he gets to the boss, if you remember when we read the description of that Stifling Aqua Cage skill, it targets the champion with the highest attack. Since we don't really need Zatlux for the boss, like it's nice if he gets to put in a little damage, but in no way is he the reason we're defeating the boss here. You saw his ult did 6% damage. Like he's not doing much here. What he is doing is absorbing that Stifling Aqua Cage for us, so that the champs that are doing the important things here don't have to deal with that. Mathasia will never not be able to heal. Gangelo will never not be able to apply poisons, and Urzog will never not be able to do the things he does. If you'll also notice, I have Urzog and Gangelo's skills turned off. I could probably turn Urzog's skills on because I have him in a cursed set. As you saw right there, it just procced. So whatever ability he used, he has a chance to follow up with a bonus attack to place the unhealable. I think I've switched him over to a cursed set and honestly forgot to turn his skills back on, but what that would do is put up block positive effects as well, right? Remember, the other things that he does in his kit were also pretty useful for the fight. So I could probably turn on his skills and still be fine. One thing we're noticing, remember when I talked about if you put a team together and bring them in and they fail or they have trouble, you can at least be aware that it's a gear issue. If we look at Urzog here, he is getting dangerously close to dying. He's probably gonna, yeah, he just went down. So now I know that I need to go make him tankier. He needs to be able to take hits better. This is not a matter of the comp not being good. This is a matter of my gear not being good enough. So everyone else is fine. Mathasia's never really been in any danger. Gangelo's never really been in any danger. Zatlux might go down. Mathasia can bring him back. It's not a big deal. And again, we have the insurance of having her, but if we didn't have Mathasia, if we were using Radira, it would be that much more important that we get our gear in order. So this is I think this is a pretty good example of, again, understanding the dungeon, putting together a comp that can do it, and then addressing where we know we have trouble, which in this case is Urzog's gear. So there's my team. There's an example of a team that's very effective in there. Again, there are a lot of different versions of this, but the most important thing to do is figure out your comp and then sort the gear. And then you can start to do some cheeky things with the gear. If you notice, my Gangelo was on a curse set. He used to be on Revival, and then I got to a point where I could handle him on a curse set. So now he gets bonus attacks with his A1, which throws up poisons faster. Urzog was on a curse set, which, as I mentioned in the run, I could turn his abilities back on, and he'd still probably keep the unhealable up because of the curse set procs, right? But if you're not to a point where you can handle that yet, revival sets are really nice in there, right? A revival set on a Santis, a revival set on your whole team really takes some of the pressure off your healer, helps the runs go a little bit better. And then as your gear gets better and better, you can start to play around a little bit more and, you know, like I said, incorporate some different sets that might speed things up for you. But get your comp sorted first. Get a comp that you know can be successful sorted, and then you can talk about gear. Then you can focus on getting that up. And if you can't do 12 yet, don't be too bent up about it. On my Elites Only account, you know, we farm 11, and that's the best we can do right now. Eventually, 11 is going to drop us good enough gear that we can bump up to 12. You can still get 5 and 6 star gear. The only thing that changes here theoretically is the quality and the drops. And I haven't done much testing there to know if it's even that significant. 11, if you can do 11 a lot faster than 12, that might be the way to go. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll test that out in a video too. But hopefully this helps you. Hopefully this helps you feel confident in your ability to look in your own roster and see what you've got going on and see what you can put together to get through these dungeons. And yeah, again, if you want to see the video of a bunch of different teams, I can work on that too. I can try to get a video up showcasing a bunch of different teams, doing it in a bunch of different ways. And again, maybe give you guys some more reference points. Maybe it'll help you to see some of these teams in action, make you feel like you can make it happen in your own account too. But that's it. If you have any questions, drop them below. If you have any more tips you want to drop below, any comps you're using, anything you think might be helpful, I'm all about that stuff in the comments. Other than that, I am going to get out of here. I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a good one, and we'll see you next time.